One of the favorite courses I've taken that surprised me was I just took a pastoral counseling course. And it surprised me not because I was expecting it to be bad, but I think I was curious at what it was going to sort of offer. And we went through this book called, if I can remember it, The Cry of the Soul. So we went to this book, The Cry of the Soul, by Allender and Longman, and it kind of walked through the Psalms and the different emotions that we feel and stuff like that. And honestly, if I'm being truthful, like when I first saw the cover of the book, I kind of eye rolled a little bit. I was like, ugh, is this going to be kind of like a sloshy, fluffy, and it just wasn't. It was so good, and I enjoyed it so much. And we actually, I had our pastor read it, and he loved it, and we did a sermon series on the Psalms and our emotions. And it helped so much with how do you approach pastoral ministry, and again, working with young people. They've got all sorts of stuff happening in their lives, and so to be able to have the foundation of a course like that kind of help, look, I'm not their psychologist, I'm not their psychiatrist, I'm not their counselor even, but I'm here to help triage and figure out in what ways can we help, how does the church walk alongside and support, how can the body of believers come and pray and embrace, and yet, how also do we direct them to the right people so that they can get the most help? So that's a course that stands out to me as really helpful. When I started really pursuing my MDiv here, in my head, I was like, you know what, I've done my high school life. I've got my bachelor's at Redeemer. At Redeemer, I lived on campus. I did 4 years there. I really enveloped the community feel there. And now I've got my church and my community there, and my kids go to school and I've got community there. And so in my head, I was like, I'm gonna go to ACTS, and I've got a lot of community, so I'm not necessarily in need of that hole in my life, because it didn't feel like a hole. So I will go and my purpose is gonna be to learn and educate myself and get to know the content and become a better youth pastor, honestly, just a better follower of Christ in this world. And I think I went into it with that attitude to my detriment, because like I said, there's really cool faculty, there's really cool classmates here that you get, there's really cool staff at ACTS, and I didn't maybe take advantage of that at the beginning. And then as I started doing it, I learned how valuable that was. I mean, the stuff that I've learned here in the courses I've taken, and the side conversations I've had with different colleagues and staff, but just the stuff I learned here translates so easily over to ministry. In some of the simplest ways, I'm taking a course and I have to do a project on the theology of something. It was like, well, guess what we're talking about in youth this week? So you take that and I plug it with youth, and all of a sudden we're having a great conversation about the theology of identity and how we root ourselves. You know what I mean? And so that translates perfectly over there. I already talked about that pastoral care counseling course. I mean, working in a church, dealing with all sorts of people with all sorts of things going on in their life, right? So there's youth in our church that they're going through divorce, or they're grieving someone that they've lost who they love, or, we've had things like self-harm and gender identity struggles and all of those things. And to be able to take a course like that and be able to learn how to sit in the room or sit in a coffee shop or whatever, and just engage that conversation well and pastorally and point them to Christ and point them to, the gospel truth of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Has been super helpful. So it just helped reframe some of those conversations, reframe some of those relationships you have, and learn that it's not my words that need to be spoken in those situations, but it's God's words that need to be spoken.